Good evening, everyone. My name is Latrice McLaughlin. I am the Executive Director for Connecta Federal Credit Union and the Community Foundation there. So excited to be here among so many friends, business partners, school partners, and our neighbors. And we are very excited. That's one hat I wear. The other hat I wear is I get a chance to be acting board chair for the rest of this year with the Manhattan Beach Chamber. I want to just share a quick quote. It says, "Unity is strength. When there is teamwork and collaboration, wonderful things can be achieved." And just looking around this room, there is so much collaboration. There is so much teamwork, and it is really my honor and my pleasure to be able to say welcome to our event today. I will ask if you'll please stand with me. We are going to ask Taylor Ryan to come up. Taylor, who we all know, she is no stranger to our community here. She is a winner for the 2019-2020 YEA. She competed in America's Next Top Young Entrepreneurs at the Young Entrepreneurs Academy out in New York, and she placed within top 8 for the nation. And she's coming to share with us or lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So, hi, Taylor.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Excellent. If you'll be seated, please. The next gentleman I'm bringing to the stage will be our MC for the night, and he is David Archer, the President and CEO of the Manhattan Beach Chamber of Commerce.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. It's my great honor to be here. We got a great show for you tonight, an all-star cast. We've got a video with Mayor Steve Napolitano. We've got update on the city by our city manager, Bruce Moe. We've got the police chief, Rachel Johnson, coming up. She'll give an update on the PD as well, and then we'll round it out with Dr. John Bose on the school district. So we got an action-packed night. I got to thank my sponsors. So the state of the city with the chamber. So a couple quick things for us, and then we can get to the meat of the program. The first thing you understand about the chamber is we got a strong board of directors, and I mentioned their names earlier. Without them and their leadership, the chamber would just flounder. So I appreciate them and their guidance. We have a very strong board. You can look at your program. Their companies are listed in there. It's basically a who's who in the community. The other thing to know about the chamber, we have a good, stable financial base. We have solid membership at around 400 members right now. We're searching for other ways for non-dues revenue, and we're working on additional strategic partnerships within the community. So we're poised from a financial perspective. And then really the main thing is we're laser focused on our members. In front of you, you have a copy of the MB Peer Review. That's the 4th edition of it. We're very excited about that. It's a members-only benefit. There's a price sheet in there, a gratuitous plug for the chamber. But there's a price sheet in there if you're interested in advertising in it. We also have a new visitor website that we launched last year around this time, and we're continuing to make improvements to that. We are going to do a member survey to find out what our members and our community want from us. So there's been some dialogue recently about what the chamber should be doing and not doing, and so we're going to survey our members and get a feel for the pulse. We're also adding additional member benefits, one of those being the MB Peer Review, but we're working with our members to provide additional benefits, and I don't want to get ahead of myself, but the Beach Cities Health District may have something for us, so I don't want to tip my hand too much. And then we're also doing an outreach to the corridor, the Sepulveda, Rosecrans, Artesia, Aviation. I always forget Aviation. But we've done an outreach to them to try to strengthen that alliance as well. Some key accomplishment, again, I mentioned solid financial position. We have a new visitor website. We have a work plan with the city, so we're excited to partner with the city. We have our destination guide that's out. It's also on your desk or on your tables. We distributed over 20,000 of those electronically and hard copies of them. We raised over $100,000 producing that. We had the MB Peer Review, YEA students placed in the top 3 this year, and then Taylor, she was in the top 8 the prior year, so we're super excited about that. and we had the Best of Manhattan Masquerade last year right in the same room. The rest you can read for yourself. I don't want to have to read all the bullet points for you, but a look ahead. We continue our member growth. Our goal is to get to 500 members. We think that's a sustainable amount. We want to increase our revenue by 25,000, and we're going to do business and resident expos in the coming months. And we've implemented chamber mixers, and this is the third this year. The first two were very successful, and we're happy to have those. So, let's see, what else? Other handouts. On there, you have the Leadership Manhattan Beach. There's a flyer in there for their class project. I happen to be a Leadership Manhattan Beach person in this class, and I know there's some alum out there, Richard Montgomery. So everybody's, if you're alumni, give a woot woot. That was kind of weak, but all right. So, anyone ever heard of Brad Jacobs? All right, so we have Steve Napolitano. He's going to give a restaurant review here. That's going to be his segment of the program. So without further ado.
Okay, welcome back to Restaurant Reviews. My name's Steve Napolitano, Brad Jacobson behind the camera, and today we're going to do our 100th review of Pancho's Restaurant.
Cut. State of the city.
We're back. Thank you and welcome everyone. Thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for hosting tonight's 2023 State of the City for the City of Manhattan Beach. My name's Steve Napolitano. I'm your mayor. On behalf of my colleagues and myself, I want to say thank you for being here tonight and listening. Now, we're talking about the state of the city for Manhattan Beach. The state of our city is stronger than ever. Not just because we have a strong budget, a thriving business community, and great schools. The state of our city is more than just a bunch of facts and figures. It's a state of mind. People are always asking me, what makes Manhattan Beach so special? And the answer is everything. From our beach to our pier to our just right climate, people from all over the world come to share what we have. We're 4 square miles of unique neighborhoods with their own vibe and character. Sand, hill, tree, poets, Manhattan Heights, Liberty Village, and North End. These are the sections that make up Manhattan Beach. We're a world-class dining destination with a view, along with a one-of-a-kind retail shops in our quaint downtown and North End, with larger national brands along Sepulveda and Rosecrans. We're also home to some of the best events and traditions anywhere, from our 6-man Manhattan Open volleyball tournaments, to our 10K run and hometown fair, to our holiday open house and fireworks, among many others. There's something for everyone in Manhattan Beach. As for those facts and figures, well, your city council has been busy transitioning out of a pandemic whose emergency orders have just lifted to moving full speed ahead on a number of different issues. Of course, everything we do begins and ends with our budget. Fundings make cities go, and while Bruce will cover the details, our proposed budget for the coming year will be bigger than ever because our revenues have bounced back bigger than ever. Unfortunately, our expenses are bigger than ever too. Why? Well, for anyone who has questions about the expense of a city that hasn't grown in size or population for decades, the expectations of our residents, the challenges of the world around us, and the mandates of state and federal government have grown exponentially, requiring our budget to grow too. A bigger budget means more though. More services and programs and more opportunities to get more things done. And it starts with what the community wants. You spoke and we listened. You wanted a strong, local, sustainable fire department and we listened. We improved the management of the department while addressing excessive overtime and approved the hiring of 3 additional firefighter paramedics to serve the needs of our community. You wanted us to address rising crime and we did that too. We hired a new police chief, Rachel Johnson. And we just approved hiring 7 new police officers and other support staff so we can have more downtown patrols, more enforcement of quality of life issues, and more support for efforts like our Neighborhood Watch, because it takes all of us to keep all of us safe. But it's not just about arrests, it's about prosecution, putting the bad guys away. And while we've tried to improve that too, we're still trying to get the DA to allow us to prosecute more crimes locally, and we'll keep trying. In the meantime, we're looking at additional cameras and technologies to keep us safe too. But safety isn't just about police and fire. You wanted us to do more about homelessness, and we did that too. We bought more shelter beds and hired our own housing navigator to get more folks off the streets and into shelter and services, so we could also enforce local laws against camping and harassment when needed. We're addressing e-bike safety through an education campaign led by Councilmember Franklin, who's put many hours educating our youth on e-bike safety and the rules of the road. So thank you, Councilmember Franklin. We've also addressed the increased presence of coyotes in our community by educating residents on what to do if they see a coyote and how to keep their pets safe. We've recently approved trapping as a last resort when education fails. We've made clear that there's no place for hate in Manhattan Beach by launching our United Against Hate campaign, in part thanks to former Councilmember Hildy Stern. This is a campaign to address hate incidents in our community. Manhattan Beach, though, isn't just about dry budget numbers and following the rules. We like to have fun too and pay tribute to our past. We restored funding for park maintenance that had to be cut during COVID and are revitalizing Sand Dune Park, Veterans Parkway, and Polywog Park. And yes, after several delays, we're finishing up on the new playground equipment at Polywog Park, I swear. We were also able to add several new pickleball courts in partnership with the school district to meet the growing demand for additional court space. Now we're dealing with the growing demand for earplugs thanks to the noise a pickleball makes. We said everyone is welcome here with the installation of our new rainbow crosswalk down by the beach. And while the COVID pause delayed other art projects, your council just approved hundreds of thousands of dollars in new art, murals, sculptures, utility box wraps, and more. These will be paid for by developer fees and don't rely on taxpayer dollars. And we continue to address our past by approving a new plaque and new art piece for Bruce's Beach Park, after a long but needed re-examination of its history. And we're finally starting to digitize all the historical documents and artifacts stored in our Little Red House at Polywog Park, so that our history will be preserved for future generations. And we've been able to use dedicated library funds to do it. So thanks to LA County for approving this project. Now, less sexy to some, but just as important as anything else I've talked about is the policy and planning for public works, our sustainability initiatives, and community development issues. More than 95% of Manhattan Beach households have chosen 100% clean electric energy to power their homes while still paying less than if they went with Edison. And all those things you don't think about, like water being there when you turn on your tap, flushing without fear, as former Mayor Walt Dewar used to say, and streets and lights and storm drains all working well, you still don't have to think about them because Public Works keeps them working. We also did a complete $30 million redo of Peck Reservoir. I'm guessing most of you didn't even know we had a reservoir for our water, so here's a picture of it. And this shows you didn't even know we had one because that's not it. That's a picture of a Chevron tank. This is it. Actually, that's not it either. That's Fire Station 2, which will also be completed soon. I could do this all night, but here's an actual picture of it. And while it was called the Sepulveda Bridge Widening Project, the truth is we just finished a completely new Sepulveda Bridge next to the mall. I'm not sure exactly why, except now you can speed in all 4 lanes, not just 3. Have at it, folks. Now that's an overview of just some of the things we've all been working on this past year. So I'll finish up with a few things we're getting going on now. One is outdoor dining. Yes, folks, we all know everyone loves outdoor dining, but the temporary program was just that, temporary. And now we have to deal with the Coastal Commission and a whole bunch of other considerations now that the emergency order is ended. To do that, we're going to be appointing a task force to work on solutions for a permanent outdoor dining program that balances the various interests and meets the rules we have to live by. Local control. This is a never-ending fight for your city council and any local elected official. Yes, we need more housing in California, especially affordable housing. But we also need a say in what that looks like so it fits the character of our community and follows the same rules that everyone else has to play by. Right now, there are a few options for us, but if you agree with what I just said, let your state legislators know as well and tell them you're not going to vote for them again if they don't listen, and get their colleagues to listen too. The Senior and Scout House Community Center. We started with a donor drive by some dedicated volunteers to replace the decrepit Scout House being held up by termites, and now the city has stepped up to pledge $4 million in funding to get a new facility built. Stay tuned on this one. There's still time to donate, and we'll be having a groundbreaking soon. Again, these are just a few things that we've been working on and will be working on in the near future. I want to thank everyone here for their part in making things happen, and I want to thank my colleagues for all they do as well. As you know, we had an election, and we have 2 new council members, in David Lesser and Amy Holworth. This isn't their first rodeo, and they know how to get things done, as do council members Joe Franklin and Mayor Pro Tem Richard Montgomery. I'm mayor of the moment with a few days left until Richard rotates in on the 21st. I'd really like to offer up one final thought on COVID as well. As we rush to get back to normal, whatever that is, It's important to recognize that it's not really over in a lot of ways. I'm not talking about masks, vaccines, and hand sanitizer either. The pandemic has been a life-altering event in more ways than may meet the eyes, and the trauma, anxiety, and stress it caused and continues to cause for many is deep-seated and will likely be with us both consciously and unconsciously for years to come. I've lost an extraordinary amount of friends over the last 3 years due to suicides and overdoses. So if you or someone you know needs help with mental health or addiction issues, please reach out to someone, anyone, and get help. Reach out to me, to the city, to a therapist, to friends or loved ones. There is help out there, and nobody should suffer alone, and that's community too. Now, if you're still awake, I want to thank you all for your attention, for the utter and complete honor it has been to serve as your mayor for these past 9.5 months. As I said, there are many reasons why Manhattan Beach is special, but nothing makes it more special than you. There's more to the program, but I'll sign off for now by saying God bless you all, God bless the city of Manhattan Beach, and God bless the United States of America.
Now it's my honor to bring up our city manager, Bruce Moe. He works tirelessly behind the scenes. When you're at a city council meeting, you don't even know that he's there. He trusts his team to do a good job. But he's the one that works tirelessly, keeping the city running and in good shape. So it's my honor to bring Bruce up. Bruce, thank you for being here.
So we are financially stable. That's the good news. We have a AAA credit rating from Standard & Poor's, which through the pandemic and actually even through the Great Recession back in the late 2008 through 2010 era, we maintained that, and we have continued to maintain that, and we're really proud of that, given all the things that have happened, including the things that happened in today's world in the financial markets. We also have what we call clean opinions from our auditors, and they may not sound like a lot, but as my former days as a finance director and now as a city manager, it means a lot that we can tell you as our residents and our public that our books have met the scrutiny and are clean, and we fairly represent what our financial position is. So a lot of work goes into that. Steve Sherillian, our finance director here, leads a group that makes that happen. But again, everybody in the city contributes to that. It's important. The general fund is balanced, and in a few weeks here, we're going to be presenting next fiscal year's budget to the council for their consideration. Our reserves are increasing year to year, partly because we have financial policies that dictate how much we set aside, but also just good planning and prudent spending and financial management from the city council on down. Thank you. Also, we do have this dedicated workforce that I was recognizing earlier that really makes a difference. And we have many long-term employees that dedicate themselves to serving our community, and they really make a big difference. We do have surpluses forecast in the future as well, so we look like we're continuing in the direction that we've been heading. Pension costs continue to fluctuate. They often directly reflect what happens in the financial markets, but we issued some pension obligation bonds a couple of years ago that allowed us to, in essence, refinance our debt with CalPERS, our pension provider, much like you would do with your home, and borrow at a lower rate and reduce the amount of money that we need to spend on pensions. So that was a big move that saved us a large amount of money that goes towards capital improvement projects, and also for putting aside money for the eventuality that some of those pension liabilities may come back again as the markets fluctuate. So again, prudent fiscal management on our part. Street lighting assessment, stormwater funding, certainly topical these days, but the city actually operates, this is one of those things that the mayor was referring to as being somewhat hidden, is the stormwater infrastructure that we provide to the community. It's the storm drains where the water, the runoff goes and heads off to the beaches and the oceans, and we're under increased mandates to provide or to clean that water before it ever reaches the beaches. And there will be millions of dollars that we are mandated on spending for that, and we don't have an adequate funding source for that. You'll hear more about that in the coming months, but it's something that we need to address, as are our street lighting assessments, which pay for that infrastructure. There's a small bill on a small part of your property tax bill that pays for these two components that need to be adjusted at some point, because at the end of the day, what happens is the money that could be going for more police and fire and paramedics and things like that gets funneled off to pay for things like stormwater and street lighting. And finally, general capital improvements. Someday Jocelyn Center is going to have to be replaced, the Manhattan Heights Center. City Hall at some point is going to have to be replaced. We don't have an adequate funding source for that right now, and we'll need to address that in the future. When you look at this pie chart, I bring it up just for a couple of quick things to point out. The big piece of the pie is property tax. This is the biggest part of our general fund. And this is great news because property taxes are very stable. And thus, when you look at what other cities go through, when it's feast or famine, or maybe they're tied a lot to retail sales, we don't have that problem. We have a very stable, large source of revenue in the form of property tax that, is, I don't want to say it's recession-proof, but it's about as close as you can get. It rarely goes down, it usually goes up. And it continues to grow for us, as I'll show you on the next slide. But also on this, you'll see that sales tax is a big part of our revenue source, and also is a hotel bed tax, and I'll talk about those in a moment as well. So property tax, from this bar chart, you can see that we've gone up about $8.8 million over the last 5 years in terms of our revenue in property tax, and it's 27% over the last 5 years. This is a direct reflection of the great housing market we have here in Manhattan Beach, the demand for housing, the fact that prices continue to escalate. Sales tax, on the other hand, as you can see from this, you can see where the pandemic hit us. And try as we might and wanted retail sales to thrive during the pandemic, they suffered during the middle years there. They're starting to come back now. And so you can see that in the last 2 years, we're back to levels above where we were before the pandemic. But again, this is an important revenue source for us. In that component, in sales tax, casual and fine dining is doing a fine job contributing to these amounts right now. That seems to be a great place where we're having some growth, between 9 and 17% growth year over year from the last quarter. So this slide here is actually the 25 biggest sales tax producers in the city of Manhattan Beach. And while they're listed alphabetically because we cannot indicate to you who's number 1, who's number 2, who's number 3, state doesn't allow us to do that by state law, there are 18 sales tax producers that generate 50% of the city's sales tax. And so on this list, we've listed the top 25, and I'm sure you guys can guess who the largest producers are. 23? 1 in 3. Well done. Six of the top 25 are actually dining establishments also. So at any rate, it's good. As I say, we have 18% of our sales tax producers generating 50% of our sales tax. You go back 20, 25 years, we only had 10 businesses producing half of our sales tax. So the more we can diversify this, the better. This is when I always like to pick on Brad or congratulate him, whichever way it is. But I always plug Brad and Manhattan Beach Toyota at this point because I want to make a point that when you buy your Toyota here in Manhattan Beach, we get 1% of the sales tax. And so if there's a $30,000 price tag, the city gets $300 of that. But if you go down to Carson Toyota or one of the other agencies, we see nothing of that. And so oftentimes you'll hear people talk about buying local and how important that is. It's because that money comes directly back into the city of Manhattan Beach coffers to help pay for police and fire and all those other services that we've all come to enjoy. There are threats to sales tax, as I'm sure we all enjoy going online. And, well, maybe Hildy, you're the one person I know who doesn't like to buy online. And you scold me whenever I tell you about that Amazon purchase, correct? Yes. But 16% of all retail sales are online these days. It's growing 7.5 or 7.7% annually. And that's a threat to us in Manhattan Beach here, obviously. And even if you think, I'm going to Macy's.com, I live in Manhattan Beach, the city's getting the retail sales tax, we aren't necessarily. Because if you order from Macy's online, even if they deliver it to the local store, unless they take it into their inventory for sale, it really just ends up going into the county pool, and we get only a fraction of that. So taking advantage of those brick and mortar shops and get out there and spend your money here in Manhattan Beach. Hotel bed tax, and I'm happy to mention this because I'll give you all a warning now that come July 1, the hotel bed tax rate is going from 12% to 14%. So keep that in mind as your friends and neighbors or your family members are coming into town to do it before July 1 for your pocketbook, after July 1 for the city's pocketbook. But this has been an important source of revenue for us. It continues to be, and it continues to grow. It certainly is economically sensitive. We're fortunate that there are organizations like the Chargers and the Rams who stay here in this hotel before games, and many business travelers stay here. But we've got a number of hotels in town that generate the numbers that you can see on this slide here. It's important to us that we have this source, and it's continuing to grow. Building permits are another interesting indicator of what goes on in Manhattan Beach, and I don't have a slide on this. This is just showing you the revenue from plan check and building permits. But what's really telling is how many demolition permits we issue, indicating who's tearing down their homes to build new ones, and also how many building reports we issue. Building reports indicate future sales in the very near future. And so we've seen those numbers fluctuate. They're strong. They're a little bit lower than they have been, certainly in the last couple of years, but again, it's a great indicator. And if any of you have driven down the streets of Manhattan Beach, you all know that there are sometimes 3, 4, 5 projects on one street, neighbors vying to build or remodel their homes. And so the activity is very high here, and it certainly is reflected in our own revenues. Just quickly on general fund, on the uses of fund, we are a service organization, and as such you can see from this shot that most of our budget ends up going for police and fire. Safety is very important to the City Council. The mayor mentioned the hiring of 7 new police officers and some support staff, 3 new firefighters. Public safety is our big ticket item, and so we spend about 60% of the budget on that. And then finally, as I mentioned, we're a service organization, and so you can see that salaries and benefits add up to about 60% of the money we spend, because it takes people to provide those services, whether it's police, fire, the people at the counter in the building department who are issuing those building permits, the Parks and Rec folks that provide those classes, et cetera. So that's where we spend the money. So with that, I'll be happy to stick around later and answer any questions you may have, but our state of the economy here in Manhattan Beach is strong, it's good. We have every reason to believe it will continue to be so, and you all better be buying Toyotas and spend all your money here in Manhattan Beach. So thank you.
Next up, we have our new police chief, Rachel Johnson. It's my pleasure to introduce her. I've had numerous conversations with her. What a delight. So I think you're going to enjoy what she has to say, so welcome her up.
So as your police chief, I've spent a lot of time in beach towns on St. Patrick's Day. And as your chief, I would like to encourage you instead to celebrate St. Gertrude's Day, which is also on March 17th. And St. Gertrude is the patron saint of cats. And so this is actually true if you want to Google it. And so I think that by celebrating cats, that speaks to me of being at home with a cup of tea and a nice book. And I just feel that that would be just a wonderful way to celebrate March 17th. I am so grateful to be here with you today to talk a little bit about what we're doing at your police department. It is the great honor of my professional career to be your police chief, and I come to work every day with a smile on my face. I'm going to spend a few minutes with you, keeping in mind the desire to continue to mix. And I see the glasses are getting low, so I won't belabor anything. But I want to talk to you a little bit about crime Manhattan Beach, talk about some of our goals for the future, and how we can work together to reduce crime. So before I begin to talk about crime, I want to let you know that crime is classified by the Department of Justice into basically 2 camps: crimes against persons and crimes against property. So what happens to you versus what happens to your stuff. And I think we could all agree that what happens to us is where we may feel less safe, and what happens to our stuff, while annoying, is just different. And so in Manhattan Beach, we do enjoy a relatively low violent crime rate, where our violent crimes are about 12% overall of the crimes committed in Manhattan Beach, which means the other 88% are property crimes. And we're going to talk a little bit about both. So you have before you the UCR statistics, that's Uniform Crime Reporting Statistics, on crime in Manhattan Beach for last year and for the previous 5 years. And you can see that overall violent crime has remained relatively flat, which is a good thing, and we had some decreases with robberies and with simple assaults. But we did have some increases in the area of aggravated assaults, and I want to take a minute to talk about that, because who knows what that means, right? Not many people outside of law enforcement do. And so aggravated assaults could be anything from bar fights to domestic disturbances, neighbor disputes, road rage incidents. And so when we start aggregating how many of those aggravated assaults are by persons unknown to each other, that's a really small number. About 40% of the aggravated assaults are people who are known to each other, whether that's a neighbor dispute, a coworker dispute, two people having far too many Coors Lights in a bar. A lot of our aggravated assaults are people who are known to each other. So these are not persons who are unknown to each other where someone has come and perpetuated a violent crime upon another member of our community. So we've seen some increases there, but it's important to put that in context. And also in context, we did see an increase in the area of rape, but about, I think 70% of those folks were known to each other in some fashion, and the other 3, while those persons weren't known to each other, there's nothing to indicate that there is any sort of serial crimes going on. And so you can see that overall, again, our violent crime rate has remained very, very flat over time. It doesn't mean that we don't want it to go down. It just means that the things that happen to us that are truly very traumatic have reasonably stayed the same in Manhattan Beach. But where we've seen tremendous increases is in the area of property crimes. And property crimes are actually the top 5 Part 1 crimes in Manhattan Beach. There's no of all the crimes that occur, none of them that occur the most in town, none of them are violent crimes. They're all property crimes. So let's talk a little bit about what that means, right? So I can't see the numbers as well, so maybe I'll get closer here. We saw a big increase in, can you hear me? Yes, no? We saw a big increase in the area of auto thefts where people had their cars stolen. You can see that number. It's pretty eye-popping year over year. I think you would agree. Well, what if I told you that fully 50% of those stolen vehicles, the keys were with the vehicle? So fully 50% of those times a person came upon a car and the keys were in the cup holder or somewhere else equally visible and the car was stolen. So you can just see how just working together a little bit to secure our property, we could reduce auto thefts by 50% right away, right? So when we talk again about our Part 1 property crimes, you know, we have our residential burglaries did go down, which is great, and we did see really exponential increases not only in the area of vehicle theft, which we just discussed. And if you think about it, if we had 137 vehicle burgs last year vehicle thefts last year in 2022, and we're able to reduce those in half, we would return to our more consistent numbers that we've experienced year over year. So there's a lot that we can do as a community to prevent ourselves from becoming victims of crime, and a lot of that has to do with just retaining your car keys. So we had a lot of theft as well, and I want to bring this slide up because it explains a lot of those. The label of larceny is generic for a lot of thefts where people just steal your things. And so we had a lot of thefts from vehicles. That's a huge number. But oftentimes those were because property was visible from the interior of the car. So even if the person had to break a window or force entry into the car, they knew that a bounty awaited them because it was on the seat of the car. You know, we had a lot of shoplifting last year as well, and we've been working with our retailers and our loss prevention folks to address shoplifting and make sure that we're doing all we can to harden the target with our businesses. We talked about motor vehicle theft already, and we talked about burglary already, but property crime has gone up a lot. Over time, you see those numbers, everything else is relatively flat with regards to violent crime, but you go to property crime, and it's increased a lot. And some of it, yes, we could do some things to harden the target, for sure. But there are some headwinds that we've had within the last 10 years in law enforcement that have made this number what it is. And I'll start just a little bit about in 2011, Assembly Bill Prop 47 was enacted by the state legislature, and what that did was it turned a number of crimes that were considered crimes that you would do state prison time for. You're not doing that same time in county jail, which kind of overcrowds our prisons and impacts our sentencing locally. You had on top of that, in 2014, we had some more legislation that declassified a lot of things that used to be felonies and made them misdemeanors. And so you're like, Rachel, what does that even mean, right? I don't watch the People's Court, I don't know. So way back when, prior to 2014, if you went into a business with the intent to commit theft, that was considered a felony. So you came out, and no matter what your bounty was, if you completed the theft, that was considered a felony, and so you might do time in state prison, right? It's a pretty big stick, right? A lot of encouragement not to do it. Well, a lot of laws related to classifications of narcotics and theft-related crimes were reclassified as misdemeanors. So you go from being arrested for a felony, having to stay in jail at least until you have a preliminary hearing in most cases, and probably getting some incarceration time, to now, when we find you with your bounty outside of the store, if it's less than $950, we're writing you a ticket and telling you to come to court on a court date. And you can see how that might incentivize the wrong subset of people who would prey on us and steal our property. The last headwind that we've had occurred in 2020 when our district attorney decided to not prosecute certain misdemeanor crimes. And so, again, a lot of things that would have been gone through the court system, been adjudicated, and provide some sort of punishment, that opportunity is not there for us. Now, I'm here to tell you that your police department is still in the business of fighting crime. District attorneys will come and go, policies will come and go, legislation will change, and some of this legislation is in the process of changing, not necessarily back to the way it was, but changing for the better as far as I'm concerned. But what we will always be here to do is investigate crimes thoroughly and take people to jail. We will always be here for when you need us, and we will always do our part in the criminal justice system, and we will continue to advocate for those legislative changes that help us do more and help drive these numbers down. So I told you a lot about crime, and crime's up, and that's not a good feeling. But when I became a police officer, it was for what people called hooking and booking, like taking people to jail, putting the handcuffs on them, the hooks, and booking them in jail. And we are still doing that at the Manhattan Beach Police Department. Last year, we made over 920 arrests. And when you see there, it says booked, cited out, or warrant only. So booked means we brought them physically to our jail and fingerprinted them, and either they were sent to county jail or they were bailed out, depends on the circumstance. A cited out means a person was written a citation, which is still considered a technical arrest, and sometimes that happens if we arrest someone, and then all of a sudden, they're like, my back and my neck, and so we write them a ticket, and we let them go seek medical treatment outside of us, and so we do write some people that we would normally arrest, write them citations so they can seek treatment or have other mitigating circumstances. We allow them to do that, and we write them a ticket. The last category is warrant only, which means that some other jurisdiction wanted them, we found them, and so we turned them over to that jurisdiction. But I'm very proud of this number because despite the headwinds that we've discussed, your officers are still out there just making outstanding arrests. So I tell my officers my mission statement when I start, right? Which is mission first and people always. Okay. Well, our mission is to crush crime, right? Our mission is to pay attention to crime, and that requires data, and that requires tools to do it, right? And I just want to tell you just a small story about how this mission has just made it all the way down to our more junior officers. So an officer who took a couple of crime reports for thefts from vehicles over a couple of weeks span, and he noticed that they were occurring on Tuesdays in this certain part of town. So he moseys on over to the detective bureau and says, hey, these are happening on Tuesdays. I think you guys should do something about it. You maybe detect or something like that, what you do down here. And so this past Tuesday, but a mere 2 days ago, the detectives went out on surveillance trying to catch these folks on a Tuesday. And lo, what happened? The thieves returned and almost smashed the window of one of our undercover cars because they didn't know that we were in it waiting for them, right? So it's through the work of that officer who was paying attention to the things he was doing, contacting his partners in the bureau, we were able to arrest a number of folks for vehicle burglary that day, which is outstanding. So every day, no matter what headwinds we're facing, everyone at your police department is focused on our mission, focused on keeping you safe, and focused on taking bad people to jail. And that officer's name is Connor Hetty. He's a very low tenure officer, and I just think that's just outstanding work. So we have some goals. We want to continue to hire. The council is very generous in allowing us 7 new officers and 3 professional staff to support our goals. And so one of our larger goals is to get there. And hiring police officers is no easy feat. It takes about 18 months to get a police officer from the first interview to solo patrol if they have to go to the academy, because the interview process is very lengthy. The background process is lengthy because it is very intensive. The academy is 6 months, and field training is another 6 months. And so depending on if they're lateral officers or new officers, it can take us a while to get these people, but our focus is on hiring. We talk about it every week in our staff meetings. We want to do our increase in community engagement. We haven't seen you that much over the last couple of years due to COVID, and we miss you. We had Coffee with a Cop a few weeks ago where our officers were serving coffee through the drive-through window at Starbucks. I don't think any of them have a future in it. They couldn't make the coffee, they couldn't work the register, but they were able to hand it out the window. So I don't know if that's going to be what they need at Starbucks. But we had our town hall meeting as well, and then a swearing in of 6 people who just were recently promoted last week. Our drone team is finally lifting off, if you'll enjoy that pun, so that we will be able to rely on ourselves when we have calls for service where a drone will be beneficial. So that team is coming online as we speak. And we're leveraging data to reduce crime. And that goes back to the story I just told about Officer Hetty, where the data that we're providing and the emphasis we have on focusing on crime, we're leveraging that data to reduce crime and make a difference and take people to jail. So this is not a Rachel Johnson thing, this is an us thing, right? And I always say teamwork makes a dream work, but it's a team effort to reduce crime and keep our community safe. I encourage you, if you haven't, to join Neighborhood Watch. We are now posting our weekly and monthly crime updates on our social media channels, so please look at those. And a lot of what we talk about with property crimes goes back to this. If you don't lock it, you lose it, right? So please, as you're doing your routine when you get home, remember to take your stuff out of your car, secure your home. Just make sure that we are making it an unattractive place to be for people to come and commit crimes. And that's a partnership. You lock it and lose it. You lock it so you don't lose it. But if you see something suspicious, say something. Call us. You are in your neighborhoods day in and day out. You're in your businesses day in and day out. So you know what is suspicious and you know what is out of place far more readily than we might, just depending on the circumstances. So please do not hesitate to call us. What I hear sometimes is, I don't want to bother you. That's kind of the business, right? I mean, they made a 3-digit number specifically for bothering the police department, right? So please call us. That's what we're here for. We're here to serve you. We're here to confirm or dispel your suspicions. We are here to make you feel safe. So please call us if you see something suspicious. I already spoke about the additional personnel authorized by the council, and we are just so grateful. And I do want to thank Mayor Napolitano and all members of the City Council for authorizing those new positions. We're so excited for the myriad of things it will allow us to do, not only community engagement and business engagement, but also having an increased bandwidth to do more surveillance and do other things that will help us take those who would victimize the citizens of Manhattan Beach to jail. So with that, I am done. I want to thank you for laughing at my jokes. It's very sweet. I really appreciate that. And just know that your police department is here for you. We will be here when you call us. If you have questions for us, we're always here to help. And it is truly a partnership, and it is my great honor to be with you. Good night.
The next gentleman I'm going to bring up is a real gentleman. I've had an opportunity to chat with Dr. Bose on a number of occasions, and he's a lovely person, got a great heart for our students. I think you're going to enjoy his talk. Dr. John Bose, come on up.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here this evening. I'm John Bose, Superintendent of the Manhattan Beach Unified School District. And I'd like to begin by thanking some of our most important partners, the Chamber of Commerce. David, thanks to you and your team, and to the City of Manhattan Beach. We heard Chief Johnson talk about making sure Manhattan Beach is a safe city. Likewise, our schools are safe, thanks to the City Council for funding not 1, but 2 school resource officers. And anytime we have any kind of safety concern on our campus and need to get in touch with Chief Johnson and the police force, they roll right away. And we are in regular communication and contact with Bruce and his team and Chief Johnson and her team. So thanks to the Chamber and the city. It's all much appreciated. Our district is MBUSD. It is a destination district. I want to tell you a little bit about our story this evening. In fact, our motto for this year is "We are MBUSD." We're guided by our Board of Education. With us tonight is Board President Kathy Graves and Trustee Tina Shapuri. Our other 3 trustees, Wish Weinstein, Bruce Greenberg, and Chen Fenton, are at our elementary school open houses. So if you happen to drive by one of those this evening, you're going to see quite a lot of activity. We meet every first and third Wednesday at the district office right on Peck by the high school. and we hope you can join us sometime for a board meeting or tune in virtually to be with us. Our work, my work as a superintendent daily, is focused on fulfilling our 5 board goals. And the 2 most important are making sure that we maximize the academic success of each and every student. We want to make sure they reach their highest potential and are well prepared for a college career and life when they leave with the MiraCosta diploma. This is my 33rd year in education, 7th as a superintendent. My own children are in their late 20s and early 30s, so I've seen the inside and the outside of classrooms for a long time. And I want to let you know how regularly impressed I am by the high quality teaching instruction and the student learning going on from preschool to our elementary school, Manhattan Beach Middle, and our high school, our flagship school, MiraCosta. Our second board goal focuses on a culture of care and developing the social and emotional well-being of our students. And just as we aspire to make Manhattan Beach a safe and welcoming committee, so do we endeavor with our classrooms and our campuses. We know that children learn better when they feel safe and are safe. And it's this personalized learning environment we create for each child through these 2 board goals that we feel best prepares our students. Just like the city's budget, the district budget is in very good shape. The focus of our board meeting yesterday evening was on the second interim budget. We're awaiting the May revise from the governor, and just as the budget is approved in June by the legislature, so will the school district approve their budget for the 2023-2024 school year. We work hard every day to make sure that your taxpayer dollars are put to good use in all our classrooms, and that our students benefit directly from the revenue their attendance in our schools generates in the year that it's received. I'll talk a little bit about our facilities a little further in the presentation, but also want to share some news about not just the district, but how we communicate that. Each Friday, there's a superintendent newsletter that's released, and if you've not signed up for that, please just visit the district website, and it's very easy to sign up. Our public information officer, Hiba Samad, is here with us today. Hiba is a graduate of Grandview Elementary, Manhattan Beach Middle School, and Costa, so knows our community well. We have a lot of great news to share about the district, including a recent A+ rating for niche and being placed in the top 2% of all schools nationwide. Costa is a destination district and has a longstanding reputation for graduating top scholars and having top athletic teams. Some of the things that we're especially well known about is our Grammy Award-winning orchestras and band program. If anybody's watching some of the Pac-12 games and saw the commercial with Bill Walton, that was the MiraCosta Jazz Band in action. He was out at Costa just the other week taping that commercial with us. I was just in Hawaii with our marching band with Dr. Gerger, and they were invited, one of only 2 bands from California, to participate in Hawaii's lead cultural event, parade, and did a fantastic job. In fact, we ran into a MiraCosta graduate from 1967 who came to the parade specifically. She lives in Honolulu and saw Costa was going to be performing. But we have top quality programs for our students. We have an internationally known model UN program that competes all over the United States. Our Odyssey of the Mind problem-solving team is advancing to the finals in the state competition, and we have opportunities for every student, every boy and girl in Manhattan Beach, though there are over 150 clubs at the high school that meet any interest that they have. We have 11 National Merit Scholar finalists this year. Two of our students you see pictured here won the very competitive Amazon Scholar Award program last year. Our students regularly perform in venues from Disney Hall to Washington, D.C. And I am always amazed at the high quality orchestra music and band programs, our visual and performing arts. Our middle school is putting on a new presentation, Romeo and Juliet. And if you've never been to one of our plays, I would invite you. In fact, if you are a senior, like me, over 55, many of these programs are free for you, and there's a free dial-a-ride service through the city to help get you there. All right, back to the safety of our campuses. It's very important to us that our students feel welcome on campus, and we've done a lot of work about how to stand up to bullying and how to welcome friends into our classroom. Our schools have been really focused on this, and we're the first school district in Southern California to receive the Anti-Defamation League's No Place for Hate award. So we're very proud of being the first district in the region to receive that distinction. And I want to give a special shout out to our principals for leading the work at their sites. Some of the photos you see here revolve around some anti-bullying skits that students have put on and the No Place for Hate pledge that students have signed and some of the respect assemblies. But we know that when students understand what rules are well behaved and supported in those, the learning environment is also better. So we've come a long way with that in recent years, and it's another real standout aspect of our district. I want to say a few things about our students. We have some real creative students in the arts, but we also have some real innovators and entrepreneurs. The student on our left, Cindy Lynn, created a tutoring service for students. This has been very well received and a very popular program with them. In addition to students being recognized for individual music performances, we also have students recognized for their work in the sciences. One of our students created a low water use aquaponics growing station for plants and foods, and that's on display at MiraCosta if you're ever on campus and would like to see that. Also of note, our cheerleading team just won a second place national award in Florida, and we were able to honor them at our board meeting just the other week. Okay, back to facilities. I want to give a big thank you to all the residents of Manhattan Beach who supported a $150 million facilities bond that included completion of a beautiful athletic complex at MiraCosta High School, and much needed. But if you've not seen that, we'd be happy to take you on a tour of it. It's the kind of facility our student athletes deserve, and we have a storied tradition of athletic excellence here in Manhattan Beach. If you've driven by Grandview recently, you will see a 3-story building going up, which is a new auditorium, cafeteria, an administrative office, and it's right next to new 2-story classrooms that went in last year. You can see a picture of those and what they look like in the blue building located at Pennicamp, which is the same type of 2-story modern 21st century learning facility that our students deserve. Almost completed as well is the new music building at Manhattan Beach Middle School. It is a fantastic venue both for our music and our vocal programs, and the kids are very excited, as are the teachers, about being able to use that facility. So again, thank you to the voters of Manhattan Beach and to the city for their assistance with our camera program. All of our schools have security cameras in place, and we have just finishing right now the installation of over 45 cameras at the middle school and over 80 cameras at Miracosta High School. So those are some big safety improvements happening. Another safety and facility project underway is the new design for Stadium Way. If you ever attended a football game at Costa and entered off of Peck, we have right now what might be a very attractive alleyway to enter Miracosta, but we have a great new design for that, and it's going to have the type of entrance more consistent with the rest of our facilities. And I'm very excited to be able to showcase that in this presentation next year. Manhattan Beach Middle is made up of 8 schools, our preschool, 5 elementaries, the middle school, and the high school. And we are enrolling now for the new school year. You'll see some banners across town. You'll also see digital displays and in Manhattan Village. We are still trying to grow back to pre-pandemic numbers, but we're very proud this year that while the state and most of the region is in declining enrollment, our enrollment actually picked up. And we have a goal to get back to our pre-pandemic number of 6,200. So we do have space at all of our schools. So if you're a Manhattan Beach resident, you're an employee of the city or the district, or you have a grandchild that would like to attend our schools, please contact the district and we have a space for you. I'd also like to mention 2 other important partners, which are Chevron and the Manhattan Beach Education Foundation. They were instrumental in helping launch our STEM Expo at the middle school last week, and I know we have representatives for them here with us today, and wanted to make sure they got an important shout out as well. So thanks again to the Chamber of Commerce for hosting.